First off, can we just give it up to Emily Dickinson for another absolute banger of an opening line? Like I say, Emily Dickinson, some of, if not the greatest opening lines in all of poetry, let alone poetry of the English language, let alone American poetry. Emily Dickinson, here's what Emily Dickinson is not afraid to do is set it all on the line up front. This is especially striking in the age of clickbait. There's no clickbait with Emily Dickinson. She gives you everything right up front. This poem, the poem we have today, Death Sets a Thing Significant, is actually, despite the fact that it comes with such a closed fist in the opening line, despite that, it is actually a very coy poem. It is a poem that hides what it's actually about. It is a poem that tells you what it means, but does not tell you the thing itself. It just paints that picture, not in ideas, but things, the objective correlative. It gives us the reason and lets us insinuate what it's actually about. This video is part of 3 separate playlists here on the channel. Number 1 being obviously the Echoes of Emily playlist, but number 2 being a playlist of Emily Dickinson poetry discussions, and third, the general playlist for poetry discussions. If you like or appreciate the work that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. So consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more literature in the future. Death sets a thing significant. The eye had hurried by, except a perished creature entreat us tenderly. To ponder little workmanships in crayon or in wool, with this was last her fingers did, industrious until the thimble weighed too heavy, the stitches stopped themselves, and then 'twas put among the dust, upon the closet shelves. A book I have, a friend gave, whose pencil here and there had notched the place that pleased him. At rest his fingers are. Now, when I read not, for interrupting tears obliterate the etchings, too costly for repairs. So this is a poem with a simple profundity that is never directly claimed. Death sets a thing significant. The eye had hurried by, except a perished creature entreat us tenderly. Now this may seem like the profundity here. Death sets a thing significant. But that is the corollary to what is actually profound here. To ponder little workmanships in crown or in wool, with this was last her fingers did, industrious until. We have here stitching, right? We have these things which may not seem significant, these things which may seem insignificant. We start off by saying death sets a thing significant. Then Emily Dickinson gives us a thing, basically saying that death has set this significant. With the thimble weighed too heavy, the stitches stopped themselves, and then 'twas put among the dust upon the closet shelves. A book I have, a friend gave, whose pencil here and there had notched the places that pleased him. At rest his fingers are. So my friend had given me a book where he had highlighted, he had annotated things. He's dead. So when I see those things that he annotated, I am reminded of him. Now when I read not, for interrupting tears obliterate the etchings too costly for repairs. I can't read the book. I cry every time I do, and I dare not cry on those pages because it will make his markings bleed. It will ruin the markings he left. So, death sets a thing significant is corollary to, so we should value those things which seem insignificant during our life. We are given these things which might seem insignificant. So is this profound? Indeed it is. But the true profundity of the poem, which is never stated directly in the poem, is that because death sets a thing significant, we need to pay closer attention to those things which seem insignificant while everyone we have is alive. There is Sam Harris wrote a book on free will. I believe it was Free Will. Maybe it was either in Free Will or in Waking Up. I can't remember which one it was in. But he laid out this idea. Every parent at some point will have picked up their child for the final time. Picking up your child seems insignificant. You pick your child up every day. You pick your child up multiple times a day. At some point, you will no longer pick your child up, meaning that at some point, the last time you picked up your child happened. Obviously, at some point, you did it for the last time. You didn't know it. You'll never remember it. And this is true with anything in life, right? At some point, I will not write again. I will have written my last word. Probably that will not be a decision, right? You will at some point hear your mother's voice for the last time. When it happens, you will not know that is the case. It is a thing which seems insignificant. You've heard your mother talk your entire life. Someday, you will not. You don't get to pick when. Probably. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you do. Sometimes it feels like you wish you could, right? Death sets a thing significant. So we should take those insignificant things and give them our significance while we can. A nihilistic interpretation of this poem, it is weak nihilism, but it is nihilism nonetheless. I said that every poem in Echoes of Emily will have a nihilistic and a hauntological interpretation. The nihilistic interpretation here is just that. Look, everything it's basically right in the title. Death sets a thing significant, meaning everything that had been happening seemed insignificant. The insignificance of life, the insignificance of your life, our insignificance as a species is the weak nihilistic position. Insignificance is the weak nihilistic position. And hey, maybe it's true, right? These crayons, this wool, these annotations in a favorite book, maybe they don't mean anything. Maybe they never will. Maybe they never have. Maybe they don't while you're doing it. That is the weak nihilistic position. The strong nihilistic position is to say significance, real. Significance, real. Meaning is what we give it. I choose that those annotations are important, therefore, they are. I choose what means something to me, and so it is meaningful. This is a poem that sort of straddles the line between the strong and weak nihilistic positions. Speaking of straddles the line, if we're going to go through a hauntological interpretation, where are the specters? We have death, we have absence, we have all of the elements that would lend themselves nicely to a hauntological interpretation, except for the haunting, except for the future that never comes, except for those. Okay, so I wasn't prepared to talk about this. We have things from the past which are making a difference in our speakers' lives, but they are manifest. They are reality. They are not absences. They are real presences. They are things which are actually with our speaker. They are things that actually belong to our speaker. Because of this, they are not haunting in the way that hauntology says. So hauntology, the future being canceled, is as if the future had evaporated. That is what makes the haunting spectral. If we actually have the thing in front of us, this was the highlighter used to annotate the book by my friend. It is not a haunting. It is just a thing. I think that there is maybe some stretch interpretation to be had there, in that our speaker is that which seems to be spectral and absent in this poem, while and whereas the actual past is present, meaning that our speaker is sort of in league with the specters of the past. Our speaker's absence, corporeal absence, our speaker is a disembodied voice in this poem. Our speaker's absence is the same as the absence of the individuals who had left their work. So I think there's a fine line to be talked about with hauntology and this poem, but it is another Emily Dickinson poem that sort of lends itself to a hauntological interpretation, and this was 120 years before Jacques Derrida laid Spectres of Marx upon us. Death sets a thing significant. The eye had hurried by, except a perished creature entreat us tenderly to ponder little workmanships in crayon or in wool, with this was last her fingers did, industrious until the thimble weighed too heavy, the stitches stopped themselves, and then 'twas put among the dust upon the closet shelves. A book I have a friend gave, whose pencil here and there had notched the place that pleased him. At rest his fingers are. Now, when I read not, for interrupting tears obliterate the etchings, too costly for repairs.